Hi, this is Cam with Murf Electric Bikes, and today I'm going to walk you through the assembly process for your Alpha Murf. The tools you'll need for this are a 4, 5, and 6 millimeter Allen wrench, a 10 millimeter wrench, 15 millimeter wrench, a Phillips screwdriver, a side cutter or snips, and a bike pump. It's also nice to have a torque wrench and some SAC2 compound from Park Tool. The first step is to cut off these straps right here, and we're going to start unpacking the bike from the box. So I have my side cutters right here. I'm just going to cut all of these straps. As we unpack, there's going to be lots of packaging and other material, so I'm just going to put all of it off to the side for now. And carefully open up this box, making sure these staples don't come up and hit me. The first thing I like to do is take the front wheel out. So there should be about 3 zip ties. Carefully cut those off. And one more at the very bottom. I have to bend some of this cardboard. The one at the bottom can be kind of tricky to get to. Once all 3 of those are cut, I'm just going to lift the front wheel straight out. It's like something's blocking it. Oh, there's one more zip tie I actually forgot to get. Now the tire should lift out. And we're going to put this to the side for now. Next, I'm going to continue taking out some of the packaging in here. And I'm actually going to take the seat out too. There is a clamp in here that you just pull out, and the seat should lift straight up. Again, putting that to the side. I like to take the battery out from the bike, mainly because of its weight, and it'll make it easier to lift the bike out of the box. So I'm going to snip the zip ties on here and put the key into the battery. Push in and turn it. The battery should slide right out. And now that that's out, we can lift the bike out of the box carefully. I'm going to try to push these cardboard things down. For this model, since it has the built-in rack, it's a really nice place to grab. Using 2 hands, just going to lift it out. Now that the bike is out, I'm going to take a spare piece of foam here and put it under the front fork so it doesn't get scratched. Just something like that. Now that the bike's out of the box, we can get the box out of the way, but before we do that, just do one last sweep in here. There should be a box of accessories in here. This contains your charger, your pedals, and some other handy things. So we'll take that out and we'll put it to the side. Looks like we got everything out of here, so we'll just move the box out for now. Now that we're working with just the bike, I'm gonna start doing some work and get all of these zip ties and the rest of the packaging off. So I'll start cutting through some of these zip ties and just make sure that when you cut through them that there's some packaging beneath it and it's not just on the bare frame. You don't want to scratch that paint. And this box right here is the headlight. So again, we'll take this, put it to the side until we're ready for that. Couple more zip ties. As I cut the zip ties, the handlebars just fell out. And that caused the bike to kind of tilt over a little bit. So it's a good idea to just kind of have two hands on this bike at all times if you can. You don't want it to tip over and scratch anything. Ideally, if you have a bike rack, that's going to be your best bet so it doesn't tip over, but we're not doing it with this one. I'm actually going to leave a lot of the packaging for the handlebars on for now. It'll just be easier to take all that off when we are working on it. So let's move on to putting the front wheel on. To put the front wheel on, we're going to need our 15mm wrench. But before we do that, I'm just actually going to grab the front wheel. We'll take off this little cover. And we'll just gently, using our fingers, loosen these bolts on both sides. Almost all the way out from the axle, and then move the inner washers close to that bolt. You should be able to see some part of the axle on both sides. Now, using that 15mm wrench, let's gently lift this bike up, pulling it by this part of the fork, and just loosen these nuts off. I like to just give it a little downward tap. Should come right out of the fork. And this is now trash. So we can start putting the front wheel on now. It will only go in one way. Before we do that, I can see that there is a brake spacer in between the brake pads on the caliper right here. So I just want to take that out so that the rotor can sit in its place. Now I'm just going to lift the bike up. Again, grabbing by the fork, trying to balance it. I'll wheel the whole front wheel in. Make sure the rotor sits in between those brake pads, and these sit right on that front axle. Once it's seated in there, I can put these tabbed washers into the holes and finger tighten the bolts. At this point, we need to tighten the front wheel down, so we highly recommend using a torque wrench if you have one. The spec you're looking for is 35 foot-pounds of torque for both of these bolts right here. I've done this a couple times. I've done this actually quite a few times, so I know what 35 foot-pounds of torque looks like. So I'm just going to use my 15mm wrench. You can use this too if you'd like, but again, we highly recommend using the torque wrench if you have one. So I'm just going to put that on. Do both sides. Those are tight, and we can move on. For this next step, we're going to put the stem into the head tube. So I'm just going to grab the handlebars right here. You want to make sure that all these cables are coming out of the rider's left side, so my side that I'm standing on right now. And I'm going to remove some of this packaging. Remove this cap from the bottom of the stem. And remove, using your snips or side cutters, the cover for the screen. So this part of the stem right here just slides right into this head tube. And we can just let it rest there for now. Now we're going to tighten the stem down, and I'm going to do that by straddling the front wheel, straightening it out so that I know I'm aligned. And this is adjustable. You can adjust it to whatever height you like, just by pulling up or down on it. I think about 3 fingers is a good height for most people, but again, you can change it as you see fit. There is a maximum height imprinted on it, so just don't go above that. And once you have it in the spot you want, use your 6mm Allen wrench to tighten it down. Just go as tight as possible right here since you don't want it to move. Should be good there. And now we can adjust the angle of the handlebars. To adjust the handlebars, I'm first going to push the screen back. It should just rotate straight back there. And then I will use a 5mm Allen wrench to loosen both this top and bottom bolt down here. Now that these handlebars are loose, I'm going to adjust them to where I want them. I think slightly above parallel is best for most people, but you can do it. Seems fit for you. So when I'm doing this, there's some striations on the handlebar itself, and that helps grip it to the stem. So just make sure that is centered on here. And then I'm going to use that 5mm wrench again to tighten both the top and bottom bolts, about equal pressure. The goal here is to have the gap from the top and the bottom be about the same. Once these are tight this way, I'm actually going to flip this Allen key around and start tightening it a little bit more. Again, just making sure I do even pressure on top and bottom. That feels pretty good, so we'll give it a test. To test this, all I'm going to do is put some downward pressure on the handlebars and make sure it doesn't slip or drop. So no drop or slip on there. These should be good. And we can move on. Next, we're going to install the headlight. It comes in a small box like this, so let's open it up. Take it out of there. There should also be some hardware along with it. Put the box off to the side. And I'm just going to dump out the hardware baggie. Should be a really long bolt and some smaller bolts about that size. All these small bolts are going to get washers on them, just like that. And I'm going to line all these up so they're ready to use. Should be 4 in total. This longer bolt has some hardware with it. So there's a washer, a split washer, and a nut. It's used as a replacement for this guy right here that runs through the fork. So this one's already ran nicely, so I'm just gonna put this to the side in case we ever need to use it. Put it back in the baggie. Now before I get to installing the headlight on here, I can see that this bracket is a little bit off center. And to fix that, I'm gonna use a 5mm wrench or a 5mm Allen wrench and a 10mm wrench. So I'm gonna grab those, put that in, and we'll loosen this real quick. It's like 1 turn is all it really needed. It's nice and loose right now, and I'll tighten it back into place. So now to install the headlight, we're going to put it on this track right here. And I'm going to do all these bolts in there. They're threaded. That should just go right into this bottom piece onto the track. Just do them all finger tight for now. Now we just need to find what angle we want to put it at. So you can either hang it a little bit high or low. Ideally, you want to have it a little bit low so it's not only illuminating your path in front of you, but also not blinding the other drivers, just right into their eyes. So I think somewhere about like right here is ideal. And now we'll just start tightening down each of these 4 bolts. I like doing one side at a time, just going back and forth. And now for one of the more satisfying parts of the build, you can remove the plastic from the headlight. We're going to plug the headlight cable in. It only goes in one way, and you'll see that there's arrows printed on both of these. There's an arrow right here and an arrow right here that tells you it's lined up. Just give it a gentle little push. It should go right in. In now, and I like to just kind of tuck this beneath the bracket right here on the back. You can always zip tie it too if you want it extra secure. Now we're going to install the pedals. The pedals come in this big box right here. It also has your charger in it. So let's just open this up. And we'll take the pedals out. Once these are out of their packaging, take a look at the threaded part of it. And imprinted on there is going to be either an R or an L on both of these. That signifies which side the pedal goes on, and that's the rider's right or the rider's left. So this one has an R on it. I'm going to go ahead and place it on this side. This one has an L on it, so it'll stay over here. And now we can get to threading them into the cranks. So to get these started, what I like to do is just kind of line it up on here, making sure it's pretty straight, and then just gently pedal the whole thing backwards. Now, at some point you'll see it kind of bite on there. Just like that, and then you can just pedal the whole thing backwards fastly. Then grab your 15mm wrench, put it on there, and it should tighten about a quarter turn. And we'll do the same thing on the other side as well. Just to note, on the right side, it is a clockwise tightening, and on the left side pedal, it is a counterclockwise to tighten. So again, right here, I'm just going to go counterclockwise, and that's on. Now we're going to adjust the brakes. So to do that, I'm just going to tilt the bike over on its kickstand, gently grab the fork, and give this a spin. Sounds like the front brake is rubbing, so we're going to have to adjust that. And let's check the back too. And the back is rubbing as well. So we're going to get to adjust these brakes here. So before we even start touching any of these brakes, I just want to point out it's really important we don't touch this metal rotor right here. This disc, if you touch it with your hands, it can deposit oil on it and your brakes will start squeaking or squealing. So just don't touch that whatsoever. Using our 5mm wrench here, or Allen key, I'm just gonna loosen both these bottom and top bolts. One here and one here. And I'm just gonna kind of look down the line from the rotor point of view. It's sitting right in between the brake pads, so just about right in here. I just want to make sure that the brake pads are not rubbing on the rotor. So make sure that there's some light on both sides of it. I think I got it in the right spot, and we're just going to hold it in place and tighten at the same time. Okay, I think that's good. I'm going to give it another test here by spinning the wheel. And we are good on the front. I'm going to do the same thing on the back here, again making sure I don't touch this rotor. So loosen both of these bolts. With this model, it can be a little bit tricky just because this bar right here for the rear rack kind of gets really close to this brake pad. So I'm using a 5mm wrench that has a ball head on it. Just kind of lets me hit it from a different angle. Once those are loose, I'm just going to adjust this. Looking down the line and making sure that I can see light on both sides of the rotor. Okay, I'm going to test that out too. And that one's good as well. Next, we're going to throw the reflectors on the bike. There should be a front and rear reflector in this accessory box in here that also has your charger. So I'll take both of those out and put the box to the side. And I'm also going to grab our seat. Take that packaging off. So the red reflector is going to be facing towards the rear, and that's the one that's going to go on the seat. So the only tool I'll need to put this on is our Phillips head screwdriver. Just going to loosen both of the screws on here. One changes the angle of the reflector and the other just lets it loosen and tighten. So once I have it at a nice 90-degree angle, I'll tighten that one down. And then I'm just going to put this on the seat post facing the rear. Push it all the way down. And once it's in place, we're going to tighten it. So before we put the seat in the seat tube, I'm going to put the battery down in the channel. It's got this nice little channel back here, and it lines up with this track on the frame. So just make sure these are lined up. Push it all the way down, and I like to give it one final little push, and turn the key all the way to the right so that it locks to the frame. Now we're going to put the seat into the seat tube, and just make sure this clamp is centered. Sometimes they'll come a little bit off kilter. Just move it with your hand. Once it's centered with this channel right here, just slide the seat right on in and tighten this down. Now we're going to throw the front reflector on. So it's this white one, and it just goes anywhere on the handlebars right here, left or right side. So loosen the screw. We're actually going to take it completely out. Hold on to it for now. And I'm just going to put this one right here. And then we can put the screw back in. Tighten it down. That's good to go. Now we're going to inflate the tires, both the front and back. It's the same process for both. So to do it, all I need to do is come down here, find where the valve is. So you locate that, you can undo the cap right here. Place it to the side and put the pump on there. For this model, we recommend pumping up to anywhere between 20 and 30 psi, so I'm going to go to 25. Gauge is reading 25, so I'm going to take it off now and replace the cap. The process is the exact same for the back tire. Before we take this guy out on a test ride, I'm just going to give it one final look over. So just make sure that the front wheel is tight. Make sure the handlebars are tight. Make sure the pedals are on, not loose. And I'm also going to turn the entire system on by hitting the power button. Just make sure that it actually turns on. Looks good. And lastly, turn the headlight on, make sure that works. As you can see, the assembly instructions are pretty straightforward, but if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or call us. We can walk you through or answer anything that you might have. If anything was confusing, you can also take it to a qualified bike mechanic to have them finish the assembly, and this thing is ready to go.